Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm here with the man himself, Mr. Kakele Olympio. He's one of the best real estate agents in the Western New York area. He's an entrepreneur and just became a self published author. Today, we're here to talk about his book, The Undoing of a Man and How to Rebuild, What I Lost, What I Learned, and What I'll Never Do Again. Man, that's a great title right there. That's powerful.
Thank you, my brother.
So, starting off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, so our audience can get to know you, and then talk about what inspired you or motivated you to write this book.
Yeah, so my name is Kakele Olympio. Usually, when people ask me to describe myself, I usually think of four things to say, and I usually go with father, husband, real estate professional, a dreamer, and now we can add author and
So
coach to it.
now tell us about this book and what inspired and motivated you to write this book.
If I'm gonna be completely honest, man, I think pain. You know, that was the most painful thing that I've ever gone through, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Divorce is one of those things that, man, we don't talk about often, especially how it affects men, but
Right.
it really impacted me and it forced me to face the reality, the real of life, you know what I mean? What life could be like um, when you're no longer on top of the world, essentially.
All right. Got you, man. That's great, and I love it, man. So you described this book as one man's confession. What was the hardest truth you had to admit to yourself before you could even begin writing this book?
The hardest truth, um, I think the hardest truth was like avoiding accountability. You know what I mean? Um, I think if anybody could take one thing away from it is stop avoiding accountability, and I think that's one of the things that I ran away from was being accountable.
All right. Now, why do you believe that ego is one of the most dangerous forces destroying good men today?
Because all men we have ego, right? And ego, when used correctly, can lead to a visionary leadership and some of the great qualities men do have. But when ego is not used correctly, um, it shuts out accountability and it convinces a man that he no longer needs correction. So that's what I would say about the ego of a man and how it can destroy him.
Now, you talk about accountability. Would you say that accountability is the first step when it comes to healing or correcting our mistakes?
I think so. I think accountability is one of the things almost all humans lack. And starting to look yourself in the mirror, right? Look at the man you are in the mirror and decide, listen, man, I gotta be better, right? And that starts with accountability, telling yourself the truth, telling yourself, listen, that's it. You know what I mean? I'm literally at ground zero, right? It can't get worse than this. And where do I start? I gotta start being accountable.
Taking ownership of your mistakes and responsibility, right? That's a big part of it.
Yes, sir.
All right. I
Yes,
love
sir.
that, man. I love that.
So
So you write about the secret lies men tell themselves. What was the most damaging lie you believed, and how did it shape your behavior?
I learned provision can never replace integrity, right? I was the guy that I was the guy that was successful, quote unquote.
Mhm.
So my wife's car was paid off, the mortgage was taken care of, everything was just going the right way. The kids are in private school, everything was going the way it's supposed to. We went on vacation, so I said, you know what, it's okay to cheat. You know, um, not that I'm justifying it, but like that's the lie that I told myself that because I did all of these things, maybe I can get away with you know, these little small encounters. And, here we are today.
Because you had pretty much, the family life, everything was taken care of. You were successful in your businesses and your career. Um, did that give you or make you feel like it was okay to kind of step out and do the things that you did on the
Absolutely.
side?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of men that I talk to also feel like this, right? So when I was writing this chapter, I think I was talking to you and other men, and they're like, yo, this part right here hits deep, right? Because as men, you feel like if you're doing so much, you deserve a freebie, or like a token of, you know what I mean? Here you are, but it's not the reality. And yeah,
Almost like having the behavior, like, or the mindset of, I work hard, I take care of my family. Let me go and have a little bit of fun right there, right on the side.
1000%. And one of the biggest regrets
Right.
of my
That's the
entire
truth,
life.
man. So many people talk about the pain of betrayal, right? When it comes to infidelity, in terms of how the the other party, whether if it's your wife, your partner, may feel, or their perspective when it comes to the level of betrayal that they feel. And it can also impact, of course, your family as well, right? If you have kids, what did you learn about the emotional cost of betrayal on your kids, as the result of the decisions that you made?
That's a great question, man. I think a lot of time the public perception is you get divorced, you lose money, which is true, right? You lose money, you lose the house,
Right.
you lose a lot of equity. Um, but the biggest cost for me, man, the biggest cost of my divorce and my actions of cheating is not being able to see my kids every day.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Right.
like not being able to just come home from a long day of work and like hang out with my son on the couch, right?
Right.
So that's the toughest part. I don't care about the money. You can always rebuild yourself and make money, but the presence, the time with the kids, I really do miss that.
You spoke
So
about in this book that you went through therapy. Therapy was one of the ways, to help you kind of overcome these challenges. And therapy is what helped you to become the man that you are today. So, how would you say therapy and faith work together in your healing process? And what would you say to men who may resist both?
I think therapy showed me my patterns, right? Showed me the things that like it breaks you down. It breaks you down on on a piece of paper, right? It's not about anything else you have, just you on paper, and you see your patterns and where where you need to work
Right.
on yourself, right?
Right.
So it's a self work that taught me, and faith, which I'm a really religious. The faith kept me grounded in therapy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
therapy gave me, the patterns, and then the faith confronted it, and kept me aligned with doing the work
Got you.
to heal.
And because a lot of men don't really, when they come to therapy, it's like they don't they don't feel like they need it, right? They don't feel like, why do I need to go and listen to somebody else tell me
Right, right, right.
what I need to
And
do?
especially us black men, right? We are we're taught to be so strong,
Right.
right? That we neglect things like therapy. But I think it's just all men in general. Why you go to therapy? You're less of a man if you go to therapy, and I think that's a terrible connotation.
Right.
Therapy literally probably saved my life. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right. Right.
when I was in that hole, I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't felt sense of belonging.
Okay.
And therapy literally uplifted me and brought me back to like feeling whole again.
Got you.
You know,
And sometimes you just need an outlet, right? Somebody to talk to and to kind of give you a different perspective, in terms of whatever the challenges or the issues may be that you may be going through.
for sure.
So you recommend that therapy is not a negative thing like most men think it is, right?
No, no. And therapy, like most people, I know people that are in therapy for 2.5 years. Nothing against them, right? You go to therapy when you need help for a specific season, right? So my therapy session lasted me 4.5 months. And when I got there, and she's like, "You graduated," So like therapy is not something that you go forever. It's just when I first started, it was like twice a week. Then it became once a week.
Okay.
It became once every 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's
Right.
just going and talk to somebody that's neutral, that does not know you. I can't say enough about therapy, man.
Got you.
And
And,
I can't name drop my therapist, but
and we spoke about accountability, and I would think that, taking responsibility, going to therapy is taking responsibility, right? And accountability.
1000%.
Got you. Now, as far as whatever happened, in your life, between in your marriage, between you and your ex, how did she react when she found out?
And to put this in like small terms, my action led to her reactions, right? It's
I
her
like that.
story, right? It's her story to tell. So I will never go on any platform and share,
Right, right,
what
right, right.
actually transpired. But again, accountability is my action is what led to her doing anything that she did to
Got you,
feel like she was healing.
got you, got you. For any man that's listening to this interview right now, who may feel ashamed, broken, or even beyond redemption, what does rebuilding actually looks like, and where does it begin?
Yeah, I think as men, ego is big. So when you go think ego, you think repetition, right?
Right,
So the moment that happens, you literally tell yourself other little small lies to like, so like your mother-in-law calls you, what exactly happened? And so you're like, it didn't always happen like that.
right,
I didn't, you know what I mean?
right.
Like you're trying
Trying to justify
to, you're
yourself, right?
trying to justify everything you did. And that is, you know what I mean? That's the part of it that I honestly think, yeah, again, it goes back to accountability,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, it goes back to accountability, looking yourself in the mirror
Right,
and just saying, I did it,
right.
you know?
And taking the responsibility, because without accountability, or without taking accountability of your mistakes, there's no way you can begin to heal.
Absolutely. And you can't tell yourself the truth if you're not telling the truth to like others.
A
You know
hundred
what I mean?
percent, a hundred
So like
percent.
if you until you tell yourself the truth, you just you can't go nowhere.
You'll be stuck in this lie, right? And
Right.
and that's what eats you up.
Yeah. And in therapy one time I just bust out crying, right?
Right,
Because I'm like,
right,
man, I'm lying to myself, bro.
right.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm like trying to hide little pieces of the details because it makes me feel safe,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So
You got to be honest with yourself,
one
man.
thousand
You
percent,
you
man.
got to be honest with yourself,
It's the
and
only person that matters at the end
right,
of the day, you
right,
know?
and that helps pretty much let go of everything, and then begin the healing process.
1000%.
All Before
right.
we end this interview, man, any last words to your readers, and what lessons do you hope they learn from reading your book?
Um, man, the first thing I want to say to my anybody that's buying my book, thank you so much for your love and support. Um, if you want to get my book, I think you should. You know, and not because I'm biased. I think it's such a good book for men that are trying to be better. I think a lot of our generation will benefit from this book. But one lesson from this book on page 113, I talk about advice. I put like 12 advice in there that men can read. And one of the advice that I'm going to stick to, and this benefit women as well, is be with someone that absolutely adore you from the beginning. Right?
Hmm.
That's like my biggest lesson that I learned from this whole entire process.
Okay.
Um, I think if you're with somebody that adores you from the beginning
Hmm.
and vice versa, it makes these battles that I talk about in this book a lot less challenging. You know, not to talk so much about my ex-wife.
Right.
Um, yeah, but
And what I loved about this book too, is at the end of the book you have a few questions that you want your readers, who may be going through the same challenges that you went through, and the same experiences, to be able to be honest with themselves and answer those questions as a way to begin to heal. And you left out a blank page for them to be able to, pretty much pour their feelings out on that page.
mhm.
So that's one thing that I really like about this book, and I think your readers will also appreciate and benefit from
Yeah,
that as
yeah.
well.
Because after we go into the 10 advice, then comes that page
Hmm.
of reflection questions for men,
Right,
and then there's the blank page that just allows you to write. Because journaling was a part of my healing.
one hundred
You
percent.
know, writing down what I feel. You know, because it was so hard to speak sometimes,
Right,
and sometimes you can't talk to yourself because in this moment it was just only me.
right, right.
So, yeah,
So putting it down on paper is it's almost like a form of therapy in itself, right?
this book is therapy,
No
man.
doubt,
You know,
no doubt. I like that. So uh, where can people get a copy of this book?
Amazon.
Okay,
You know, if you see this on social media and you want like you want the autographed copy, DM me directly. You know, but Amazon, you can get the book. There's an ebook version, and the audio book should be out within a month.
gotcha. And there's going to be a link too for people to click on that to take them directly
Yeah, one
to.
thousand. Yep, I'll make sure it's it's in this video at the bottom.
Okay. Perfect, perfect. Well, man, I appreciate you for, sharing your story. And I'm sure a lot of men out there, again, will benefit from your story, will learn from your experience, and also, hopefully it can become help them to become a better version of themselves, like it did for you. So,
I
again,
appreciate you, forever, man. And if this book helps one man
hmm
not make the mistake that I made,
right.
I think the book served its purpose.
100%.
You know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, man, appreciate you, and I look forward to more books from you. All right, this is, I'm sure, the first
First of many.
first of many. There you go. You know what I'm saying? So
Once you write the first one, I think. But I want to stay in the lane of sharing my stories. Right. I've been through so much,
right.
and you know.
So yeah, anybody, for everybody out there listening to this, please make sure you grab your copy. Like, I'm telling you, you want to read this book. It has, a lot of good information in there. Kelly shared his experience in terms of, the challenges that he dealt with, going through the whole divorce process. And it's just a good read. So make sure to grab your copy, and then, share it with anybody that you feel will benefit from this book as well. So stay tuned for the next one.